Hey all, welcome back. So let's do a quick sidebar. And this is I'm going to stress something here that we talk about a lot in this class, but that we really need to. I want to show you the reason why, and that is interfaces. All right, we have discussed them at length. I don't know how much you tend to use them, but this is going to be important to do. Let me show you why interfaces. Now remember, interfaces are just a contract. They are essentially an abstract class that just defines methods that need to be implemented by your final classes. And what they do is they basically establish an envelope of like this is what we expect this class to do, right? So let's provide for the reason why you tend to use this is because you don't necessarily have an implementation ready, but you want to start blocking in those parts of code, especially when you're early on in a place like now, where you're still kind of writing things out. So let's do that. All right. Let's start with basic kind of interfaces that we'll want for an event system. One of them is an event listener. And if you do remember correctly, really the event listener only needs to do one thing, react to an event. And I'm going to leave that blank for now. We'll get back to it in a second. Maybe so let's leave it blank so it actually looks like compiles. All right. So now the event listener itself is usually going to react to an event. So we should have an event class as well. And I'm going to leave the event class as it's not going to be completely. Event class is basically you need to be able to encapsulate all the data you need for a class to react, for another object to react to this event, right? So we've talked about the various types of events, score, the team scores, this is the game score, a player shoots, stuff like that. Each one of those has different bits of data associated with it. So what we'll do is we'll create a more base event class, and then we'll inherit from that and extend them out so you can get different types. But it's a good place to start where you actually have event types associated with it, because now that'll give you that'll, and you'll see why in a second. So let's do, we'll just pre-lock this in. All right, that's your constructor. Now we need an event type itself. So that's just going to be an enum. And then the various types. So we have attempt, shot, receive, pass, team score update, game score update, and game over. These are the various types. We could probably throw in more if you want to, but this is a good place to start. So now we have an event. We have an event type. Let's provide getters for that. M type, and then just set that. Cool. All right. We have enough now. So now we know that the event is going to react. The event listener is going to react to an event, right? So the only part that's left in this sort of interactive loop is the event dispatcher. So let's block that out as well. Dispatcher. And these we sort of tend to know the types of methods that they have. They have a add listener. Let's make that purely virtual. Event. Add it for a specific type, and this is why I was doing it that way. Event listener. P listener. I cannot type right now. Similarly, you're going to want to remove a listener. That's always a good thing to have. And in general, you're going to want a dispatch event. P event. So this one here, we are going to put, I'm going to make it protected because we don't know that we necessarily want anything else to trigger those. All right. Start with private. We'll deal with we'll protect it if we need to. So here we have enough to basically define an entire sort of interactive loop through our events for an event system. So let's see how you would basically use that. All right. And let's start with the most basic case of that, which is the player. Players we've discussed are event dispatchers in our case, right? So let's make sure that they extend that. All right, because we are including events up here. Perfect. Now, what do event dispatchers need to be able to do? Well, let's go to the player class here. And when you attempt a shot, for instance, there we can get the result. We're going to want to dispatch an event that let's start with the even more simpler case, right? The receive pass. We talked about wanting to dispatch an event when this happens. So currently we're just printing out, which is not particularly helpful. So let's dispatch an event. All right. Unfortunately, we need an event. So we can't just use. You can probably use a standard event here of receive pass, right? So this will dispatch a more generic event that says someone has received a pass, but that's not exactly helpful. See, the dispatches we have it as private. This is why I wanted to make it protected. So let's do that right now. All right. So as you can see, we do have a. This will mostly just tell us that somebody did receive an event, but that's not really encapsulating any of the data that we need. So we're going to need to include at the very minimum this player. So let's extend that event class and do that. Okay, so what we need is a receive pass event. All right, so let's create that here. And that's going to extend event. And really, it only needs to know one bit of information, which is the player that received the pass. So let's do that here. Pass event, and you're going to need to include a player to be passed in. All right, that's awesome. So let's make sure that we have, and let's remember to set the appropriate constructor for event. This one's going to be a receive pass event, and then perfect. That right there, you have everything you need to be able to do to be able to encapsulate a receive pass event. So let's actually provide an accessor to it. So MP player. There we go. And let's see how you would dispatch that on the player side. So we now have we know that we want to dispatch something. Let's remove this type and do a new receive pass event. And all you need for that is the pointer to this player. Boom. Right here, you now have enough to dispatch out an event. On a listener side, if you wanted to make something that would listen to that, you just implement the event listener and react to this event. All right, and I'll show you how to do that in code specifically, but I wanted to make sure that and I want to explain out why you may want to use interfaces to this end. We're going to start actually implementing those interfaces shortly, but this is just to get it into your head. Use interfaces whenever possible. All right, good.